Emmanuel, you're holding an Ambrosia apple. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes an Ambrosia special?
Well, it's a relatively new type of cultivar that's planted in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
There's not too much of it around. It's a very firm type, fresh-eating dessert type apple.
Mm-hmm.
It'll store well under refrigeration, and it'll handle well under abuse. Like it's very firm and it gets really red, so bruises and whatnot don't really show up on that.
And those are pretty good size apples. I mean, do organic apples tend to grow as big as some of the commercial apples?
Yes and no. It's like a natural athlete or an athlete on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do a comparison, because in conventional growing, I mean, you go in there with concentrated chemical fertilizer,
Mm-hmm.
so it artificially boosts up the size of the fruit. But in organic, I mean, organic and biodynamic, which is what we are. We use manures and we incorporate compost and whatnot, so we get a fairly good size. We have to thin it a little bit harder because, like with conventional, it's totally artificial. So you
Mm-hmm.
can, artificially grow more sized fruit and more volumes than naturally you wouldn't be able to grow. But there's a huge difference. When you're boosting something up with nitrogen, you're getting it big and maybe lush looking and the rest of that, but you're missing all the micronutrients.
You're trading off on flavor too, right?
You're trading off on flavor and you're losing micronutrients that you're depleting the soil of your micronutrients. This is what goes on after years of commercial growing, because conventional growers don't address micronutrients.
Mm-hmm.
They concentrate on nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are the three elements that are put in every year. So our bodies don't necessarily need that. We need more micronutrients than we do nitrogen. So this is why when we eat conventional food, it always kind of leaves us feeling hungry, because our body still senses the lack of nutrients that are in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to eat more and more of that. And obviously, I mean, apples are on the #1 bad guy list of spraying right now because of all the fungicides that are constantly rotated. Everybody rotates fungicides because the fungal viruses have adapted to the fungicides that are.
But you don't use those.
We don't use those.
And you were showing me what's coating your apples. Like that one in your hand is polished, but
if we look at some other ones, let's say this one.
Yeah.
We'll see that it's got a white type of powder on it, which is kale and clay. That's what that is.
And you can just eat it even with the clay on there, right?
Yeah, you can eat it with the clay on there.
Uh-huh.
It's a natural edible mineral.
Mm-hmm.
It's used in kaopeptide and Pepto-Bismol, stuff like that. It kind of neutralizes acid in your stomach.
Okay.
It's also used in a lot of beauty creams,
Mm-hmm.
moisturizers. It's good for the skin.
And it keeps the bugs off the apples.
What it does, well, now most of it's been washed off, but we usually keep like a heavier coat on there.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of camouflages. It camouflages. Like it goes on the leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So bugs will crawl up the foliage.
Mm-hmm.
And this will actually stick, as it rubs off, it sticks. It'll actually stick on their on their feet.
They don't like that.
They don't like that because they lose the ability, that magnetic ability to sort of crawl everywhere upside
Mm-hmm.
down and in all angles and directions.
Yeah.
They'll lose that, so they'll just fall right.
So they just naturally will head off to where it's easier to do their work.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm not trying to kill them because there's nothing organically really that I could use against a lot of insects that'll knock them over like an insecticide will.
Yeah.
So I try to create an environment that's not friendly to these guys, something that they don't like.
And what's these smaller trees? Because people see apple trees, they think bigger trees. Yeah. These smaller trees, they don't have the same lifespan, right?
No, they have a shorter lifespan. They're good for maybe 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
but they're quicker to produce. Like if you planted within the 3rd or 4th leaf, you probably get some kind of a decent production.
Mm-hmm.
But the tree doesn't last as long. But that's fine because you could follow the marketplace. Like we could follow it up with Honeycrisp, Ambrosia, Pinova, Mutsu, anything that starts to sell, within a couple of years you can be in production.
Yeah.
Whereas the standard tree, I mean, that'll go up to 100 years, but it'll take you 5 or 10 years to grow it.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to anticipate the market 10 years down the road.